So for the next talk, I want to introduce Chen and Guillermo, who are lead product designers at the New York Times. Chen designs for live coverage, and Jay designs for the homepage. So give it up for them.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. All right.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Guillermo. I'm a lead product designer at the New York Times. I work specifically on the homepage. I've been at the Times for over 4 years, and I have editorial design experience from print to digital for the last 20 plus years.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chen. I'm a lead product designer at the New York Times. So I've been at the Times for over 2.5 years, and I'm focusing on designing for live coverage. So before I became a designer, I was a journalist. So we're very excited to be here. Today, we will talk about how the New York Times homepage and the live coverage are continuously evolving in response to the nonstop news cycle and big news event. In this talk, we will discuss how we, as product designers at the Times, react and respond to ever-changing newsroom and reader needs, balancing speed to market with design quality, collaborate with our cross-functional partners as well as with each other.
So the New York Daily Times, as it was originally called, dates back to 1851. It officially became the New York Times in 1896. It's one of the most storied and recognizable brands around the world, with a rich history of delivering the news with a commitment to journalistic integrity. And one of the things that I find really exciting about the New York Times is its commitment to innovation, but on their own terms. So from the introduction to color on the front page, to the launch of NewYorkTimes.com, to the mobile app that we all use today. As product designers at the New York Times, we constantly ask ourselves, how do you adapt and preserve the integrity of the brand while modernizing it to meet the needs of our ever-growing subscriber base?
So the New York Times mission is seek truth and help people understand the world. So it might sound a bit cheesy, but we and our coworkers, we decided to work for the Times because we do believe in this mission and we want to help bring news to all of our readers and make news more accessible. So as we design features, or in moments where we have to make so many decisions so fast as news events evolve, we always keep this in mind as our North Star and our purpose.
At the Times, we design for a range of products and missions, from data platforms to growth, to audio, to our sub-brands, Wirecutter, games, athletic. I work specifically on the team under the mission called Subscriber Experiences, specifically on the home team. Our name has changed numerous times over the years, from app presentation to design systems to UX foundations, now to home. But our focus is mainly about driving exploration, habituation, and engagement on home. And Chen works in the storytelling and publishing mission. Her track is mainly on focusing on live and live coverage, which we'll dive deeper later in the talk. So at the Times, we all work in different ways and speeds. On home, we have a traditional product design process, mainly to build this stable platform for journalists and editors to showcase our signature journalism to over 9 million plus subscribers across 235 different countries. So because of that, the home surface is a very valuable surface to our readers as well as the business. It's akin to the front page of the newspaper. So because of that, we must work in a slower, more methodical, traditional product design pace to ensure that our home system is stable and flexible for the newsroom, while also signaling to the reader what the value is for each article.
And the live team, on the other hand, is a relatively new team and a way to cover news at the New York Times. So we work really fast-paced due to the nature of live coverage, and we do not work at a traditional product design pace. So we design things really quickly and iteratively, release them as experiments first, and fully adopt them and improve them after. So a lot of our work includes sketching, testing, evaluating, iterating, and repeat. And it includes designing for live presence on the homepage. That's when we work with Jay's team to balancing the experimental part of the live and home system. Make sure that we can experiment new features without breaking the design system. So while the way we work might be slightly different, we all both work very closely with the newsroom, which includes the editors, reporters, photo editors, visual video editors, graphics editors, news designers, etc. And they produce award-winning journalism across our signature sections, from politics, international news, to styles and cooking. So we constantly need to balance the needs of our newsroom, readers, and the business side. So for example, our newsroom reporters and editors, they want to be able to publish news faster and present a wide range of news reports. And our readers, they want to catch up on the news quickly. On our business side, we would love to increase number of subscribers and improve reader and subscriber experience. So what did we actually work on, and how do our teams work? So next up, Jay will dive deep into one of the surfaces some of you might be familiar with, the New York Times homepage.
So most of our readers come to experience the New York Times signature journalism through home. And when I say home, I'm talking about our desktop, mobile web, and our core news app. And the main job of home is really to tell the readers the story of today and have our readers feel informed and caught up on all the stories of the day. So when our readers come to the Times, we really want them to have a strong understanding of what are the most important stories. We really want them to experience and see the breadth of our content and help them understand complicated storylines, give them ways to dive deeper into specific topics. And we really need our readers to understand that what are these different types of content that we have to offer. So we got to make sure that those signals are very strong to our readers to make sure that they can make these proper decisions on what to read next. And along with all these principles, we must continue and maintain the design excellence that our users expect from the New York Times. So the New York Times publishes approximately 180 plus articles a day, which actually could be double the amount of that, given all the live vehicles and the continuously updating stories as these specific storylines unfold. However, out of those 180 plus articles on the homepage, we're really only able to promote about 1/3 of that, roughly 80 stories at one given time. So out of those 80 slots available on the homepage, from top stories to opinion, to culture and lifestyle, to our sub-brands, cooking, games, athletic, the New York Times works all across the world with 4 different newsrooms, continuously programming the New York Times homepage 24/7. So because of that, we really have to provide a stable home system platform so that news editors can decide which stories tell that full story of the day, but also be flexible enough to cover this wide range of impactful moments and topics while still displaying news judgment and editorial hierarchy. So if we zoom out from the homepage, it's really based off of this simple component of a headline, summary, and a photo. But with that one basic component, it must convey a wide range of topics. So it has to all have a little bit of visual differentiation to signal how and why each of these stories is important. And the styling on the homepage really comes from the design and principles from the newspaper. So we use this bold type of Cheltenham to signal hard news, such as storm updates, trial verdicts, news about the wars, and then we use italics to really signal and show urgency. We use Chelt Extra Light, which is a finer version of Chelt Bold, for our non-news and our feature stories, such as what happened when a Brooklyn neighborhood policed itself for 5 days, to what's your mustache say about you, to when an eel climbs a ramp to eat squid from a clamp, that's amore. And for opinion, we really need to make sure that this opinion work is differentiated from the news. So we really want that signal that these are not stories coming from the New York Times writers, it's coming from outside writers and outside voices. And so we use a more condensed font to differentiate these types of stories, such as guest editorials like, what happens if a robot tried to write Law and Order? Does the US government want you to believe in UFOs? So along with signaling through typography, we really need to convey what type of coverage we have. So with the homepage layouts, we really need to show a range of news temperatures. So news temperatures is really how we use typography, visuals, graphics, layouts, and how all those things work together. And it was really a way for our team to figure out how can we categorize these different types of stories and figure out what types of visual design levers we could pull to show this range of stories. So in 2019, we really start beginning to redesign and rethink our home system. Mainly, we were focused on temperatures 1 and 2, slow and baseline. So really, we wanted to differentiate hard news stories from visual journalism, from culture and lifestyle features, and this really became the foundation of the home system. We weren't really focused on number 3, which we considered like major news. So we knew that we needed a new type of presentation and a new way to tell these types of stories that differentiate it from a standard news story. So the things we were sketching around were Notre Dame on fire, as well as mass shootings in America, and stories like that. However, with newsroom needs and the constantly unpredictable news cycle, priorities on home can constantly change. So this is a screenshot of the homepage on March 10th, 2020. It's the day of my 41st birthday, and that day my team covered my desk in tons of candy and a bunch of like cakes and treats. And I remember having this conversation with my manager and my team, being like, do you think this is really happening? Is the COVID pandemic, is it hitting New York City? How serious is this? So I chose this day for 2 specific reasons. 1, it's my birthday, and 2, this was the last day that my team was in the office together during the pandemic. So during this time period, we were all living under uncertain times. We were looking to different news organizations such as The Times to inform us on all the latest news and protocols of the COVID pandemic. I remember anxiously checking my phone for updates, really not knowing what to do, but looking to The Times for this guidance and information. Every day was a new day. The news was constantly changing and updating hour by hour, like, is it okay to walk? Can I go outside? It was a really scary and stressful time to not only have to monitor the homepage, not only for my job, but also for my family. But I looked to The Times to really get these updates, especially how it was affecting New York City, but also for everyday things like how to keep your distance, how to get a COVID test, which states had the most infections, which states were people ordered to stay home. And Chen's team, her live team, began publishing these live briefings on the homepage, so our readers around the world could get the latest updates on the coronavirus hour by hour. The coronavirus pandemic went on for a really long time, so we continued looking to these news sources such as The Times for a range of topics such as how is coronavirus affecting the rest of the world, how to stock my pantry. I remember being in a Zoom meeting right when New York was announced that there was going to be a stay-at-home order, and I unmuted my computer and I asked the group, did you guys really stock up on groceries? Did you grab toilet paper? And everyone just looked at me and was like, yeah, of course we did. Go, leave now. And I remember I slammed my computer down, ran to the grocery store, grabbed whatever I could. And the one thing I always remember about that day is that Rihanna's SOS was playing in the supermarket while I was doing this shopping. So one thing I really want to focus on in this talk is the very top of the homepage. So normally the homepage is split up into 2/3, which is the top stories and major news stories, and then opinion. But when we go into these big major news moments, it's called Spotlight, and Spotlight takes up the entire top of the front of the homepage. So by going into Spotlight, the New York Times really wants to tell people that this is news of historic importance. The situation is really critical. We want to provide scope, context of all the news, give you updates, analysis. But one thing you may have noticed through the previous screenshots as well as through here is that the layout is almost the exact same. The numbers change, the headlines change, the heat maps change. However, the display really did not change. The layout was really static. So with Spotlight 1.0, we really only knew we had so many ways for our news editors to tell this story of the day. We had one large spot for a graphic and a few supporting stories. However, we started realizing that our coverage began taking up the entire homepage, not just that first package. So we really knew that we needed to kind of adapt this home system. And another aspect of Spotlight was it's not really built into our home system. It's actually an interactive built by news design team who custom built this interactive to make it look and feel like the homepage, but it's maintained by the newsroom, which again, that causes a lot of like workflow issues. And just to kind of put into perspective, 2019 versus 2020 is from March to September 2020, the New York Times went into spotlight 122 out of 214 days. That's 57% of the days. We published 1,403 stories during that period about the coronavirus pandemic. All that compared to 2019, where we only went into spotlight 18 times the entire year. So knowing with all this coverage, we knew that we didn't really have the options available, and it really didn't meet our programming ambitions. And with elections 2020 coming up, as well as the continuous coronavirus coverage, we really knew we had to build a new system. Because with coronavirus and elections, these are big, complex, long-running storylines that require a lot of editorial nuance that our current Spotlight system really could not provide. So that's when, in March 2020, we decided to have it, with a tight collaboration with the newsroom, product design, we really decided to come up with what are these principles for Spotlight. So we collaborated remotely in Figma. We were dissecting different days and different storylines of COVID. We were looking at how we covered elections, how we've covered wars, natural disasters, and really just try to figure out what were going to be these principles that Spotlight 2.0 had to meet. So Spotlight 2.0 really is this modular system of layouts, so that news editors can really start stacking these different storylines and packages together. So the news desk was able to build Spotlight by choosing different layouts that really match their editorial intentions. And so several packages can be grouped together to really tell the full storyline. And with the primary package, which is that first package at the top, we really made sure that we were only allowed editors to program 4 stories, so that those are the 4 main stories of the day. But then we allowed them to create these supplemental packages below those, so that they'll really be able to tell which stories are the most important. And so as these larger storylines continue to grow, our coverage and understanding and nuance of these stories, all these different cuts of the story begin to emerge. And by breaking these stories into smaller and smaller packages within Spotlight, our reader can really understand which is the most important information and why. So September 21st, 2020, our team finally releases Spotlight 2.0 to the newsroom. But as we've said before, the news cycle is constantly changing. So our team had just built this shiny new flexible Spotlight system, but the newsroom didn't go into Spotlight for over a week. Because the newsroom and the news cycle really just didn't warrant Spotlight at the time. That is until September 27th, 2020. The New York Times published this Times exclusive on Trump's taxes. And the reason why this is a pretty monumental story for the Times is that this is an extremely comprehensive examination of decades of personal and corporate tax records for the former President Trump and his businesses in the US and the world. So this was officially, technically Spotlight's trial run. No big deal, right? Trump's taxes. But luckily, with this new and flexible, technically stable system, the day went off without any P1s, which is the equivalent of a stop the presses. And so any small bugs that came up that day, our team was really able to quickly fix and release changes within minutes. And so over the last 3 years, Spotlight 2.0 has been used for a variety of news events, from planned to unplanned. Also, we've had to adapt Spotlight to accommodate a wide range of different media types, from photos to more vertical videos to data journalism. And because of that, we really decided to create these new kind of photo sizes on the homepage to really differentiate Spotlight from our other packages. So we created the jumbo size as well as photo spot, which photo spot is the large image in the center of the homepage that's akin to being the front page of the newspaper. Another component of Spotlight is banners. So historically banners are used. It's large typography that spans across the top of the newspaper. And that's really to signal to the readers that this is major, major news. And so you can see the examples of banner being used for moon landing as well as September 11th attacks. So for Spotlight 2.0, we really wanted to figure out different ways and really evaluate how the newsroom was using Banner and how can we create these different needs that the newsroom needed. So we created all these little modifications of Banner that could either emphasize this entire package or emphasize just that one story. However, we realized that the feature wasn't really being used by the newsroom. What they really needed was different temperatures and different sizes of Banner. So as we got closer to election 2020, we really knew that we had to increase this flexibility of expression at the top of the page. And so because of that, we built Banner, Banner Large, and Mega Banner into the home system so that to meet the newsroom needs to really tell the story of the day. So during COVID and election 2020, I really got to see the impact of all this work on the lives of our readers. And it really all kind of culminated on November 7th, 2020, when the New York Times published the Biden beats Trump banner. And seeing that, and that's a mega banner. And seeing all the great journalism and visuals all working together, as well as seeing this mobile screenshot just being shared across all the social media, was really a highlight of my career. Also in 2021, New York Times won the Pulitzer Prize for public service for its reporting on COVID. So it was really awesome to see that the home team's work, as well as with Chen's work on live coverage, all working together was really able to support and present all this Pulitzer Award-winning coverage to its subscribers in the world. So again, one of the other goals, aside from giving the newsroom these moments of expression on the homepage, was also being able to provide a platform for feature teams such as Chen's team, Live and Storytelling, to really be able to convey all these updating live news coverage and be able to test out new features that match the speed of news. So in this one screenshot here, there's reporter updates on the left, there's live briefings on the right, and then there's this storyline nav on the bottom. Again, so these are all different products that Chen's team has worked on that she'll talk more about her work in live and how she collaborates with the newsroom and other cross-functional partners.
Thanks, Jay. So, what is live? Live is our dynamic news coverage of the day, and it's a relatively new story format and a way to cover news where we give readers live updates on a news event as it unfolds. So live coverage has become a really integral part of the New York Times, of what New York Times readers expect when big news breaks. So in March 2021, the New York Times formally formed a live desk in the newsroom that specifically focuses on live coverage. And we, as their product partners, have been working with them to evolve breaking news and live coverage ever since. So we typically have 1, 2, 3 live stories per day, depends on news cycle, as you can see in the example here. So whenever you go to NewYorkTimes.com and you see a live label on the homepage, that's a live story. And sometimes we have 5 or more, like the examples here, like January 6th hearings, Russia-Ukraine war, US primary elections. So I remember this was a really big news day, and I was just glad to see that our products were being used to cover these breaking stories for our readers. So live includes a range of reportings, the updates. For example, World Cup final shootout, who just won the Oscars, synthesize, what do you need to know today about the Russian-Ukraine war? And insights, the US Congress just passed a bill, what does that mean? Visuals, we have so many photographers and videographers on the ground in the war zone, in the natural disaster areas. So they send live photos, videos to our newsroom every day, so we want to bring the visuals to our readers, to take them to the scene and understand what is going on there. We also cover a range of events, from planned events like on the left side, Super Bowl, which is American Football Championship, and anticipated events like trials reaching a verdict, elections, or breaking news, like shootings, natural disasters, or Queen Elizabeth's death. So we cover both serious news events and more lighthearted ones, like sports games or awards shows. And we use different formats to cover live events at different paces. So live briefing on left side is this relatively slowly updated live vehicle. It's usually used for slowly updated live events, such as Russia-Ukraine war after the initial days when the war just broke out, or the late stage of the COVID pandemic. It's ranked by editorial importance, which means that our editors will order the updates on the page and show the most important ones on top to our readers. And the live blog in the middle is the most used live format, and it is usually used for fast updating news events such as shootings, sports events, trials reaching a verdict, hurricane, and it's always reverse chronological, so which means that we put the latest updates on top to show our readers what just happened. Live chat, it's our most fastest updated live vehicle. It's usually used when there's a live stream. So we provide minute-by-minute reporter live analysis. It's usually used for events such as State of the Union, which is an annual event when US President delivers a speech to the Congress about the nation's budget, economy, etc. So in this format, as you can see here, so we will have a live stream on top, and then the reporters will provide live commentary and the background to our readers, as you can scroll down. So all of these formats are all powered by a tool called Live Admin, and it's an internal tool, a content management system that our team also designs and builds. So a lot of our work requires involving both the shape of journalism and a product at the same time, which means that we're not only doing UX, UI design, we are also doing content design, or helping to shape the way how stories are being told. So this means that we need to be really flexible and iterative, need to really understand how newsroom works, how reporters and editors' workflow look like, what are their challenges, and what are the opportunities they see. So one thing that stands out about our team, I briefly mentioned before, is we don't strictly follow a product design process. So if you come our team to sit our team for 2 weeks, you'll immediately notice that we're working at a crazy schedule because we roll out features really quickly as tests and fully adopt them and improve them after. Sometimes it takes less than 2 weeks for an idea to be developed into a feature, into production. So I'm going to talk about an example here. So on the coronation day of Charles and Camilla, the King and Queen of the UK, so our newsroom editors had an idea 2 weeks before the actual coronation day to feature people's voice on the ground more prominently in the live blog, as you can see in the example here. So we sketched a range of options quickly after the newsroom editors had this idea, and we discussed with them, presented to the engineers, and got it out for the coronation day in about 2 weeks. But we always keep in mind the long-term visions of how this feature will be involved, how it will be used for other news events in the future. So it will never be used as a one-time use feature. Another example is the visual grid. So it was originally designed for live blogs on the left side. So we used it for when the US Army retreated from Afghanistan. So the goal was to bring readers to the scene and showcase a wide range of visuals at once, like the examples here. And then later on, it evolved to be used for articles, like the book reviews to show authors, or the elections to show candidates. And then it evolved to be a live grid on the right side. So where photos will be live updated as they come in, and we add a little timestamp on the right bottom corner to show when the photo just got sent in from our photographers. And it was used for events like Olympic opening ceremony on the homepage. So we also conduct research and design sprints for long-term visions to figure out things such as what live coverage will be like in the next 5 years, how we see this story format evolve, how we should cover the important event that's coming up in a year, like next year's US elections, which will guide us as North Star as we experiment and design for immediate and short-term needs. So we are able to roll out and text features quickly by designing and engineering both front-end reader-facing presentations and back-end newsroom tools at the same time, which means that we always need to take both reader needs and editorial needs into consideration. Just imagine if we build a product that's perfect for our readers, but super hard for reporters and editors to produce, then it won't work, and vice versa. So we always need to think from both ends. So for example, when the reporters are on the ground covering war or hurricane, they really don't have time to sit down in front of their computer, open content management system, CMS, to write a formal blog post or formal article. So we created this format where they can just use their phone, open a Slack channel, and type a latest update in the Slack channel. So every update that starts with live or capital in the Slack channel will be sent automatically to a Google spreadsheet, as you can see in the example on the left side. So the editors will copy, edit it from here, and then click checkbox on the right to make it live. So we launched it during the trial of Derek Chauvin in 2021. So he was a former American police officer who was convicted of the murder of a black man named George Floyd. The murder and the trial sparked widespread protests and discussions about police brutality, race, and social justice. So this publishing process we created ended up being the way how reporters broke the news of that verdict, as you can see on the right side. So I think we became like one of the top 2 news organizations who broke this news that day. So we are also able to roll out features and get buy-in quickly by really align goals and directions and problems with our stakeholders. So I'm sure that most of you sitting here have a story or two working with your stakeholders. It really takes a really long time to build trust and mutual understanding with your stakeholders, and for us, our newsroom partners. So I still remember that on the day when Queen Elizabeth died, I was in a design review, just presenting my design to the top managing editors at New York Times. And I was like in the middle of presenting, and all of a sudden, one of our managing editors said, "Hey guys, Queen just died." And all of my stakeholders dropped the call immediately. And it was just such a shocking news moment, and just also shows you how it's like working in a newsroom environment. So I think over time, we really build on the mutual trust, understanding, and we start to understand what each other's challenges are, and we start to build more alignment. And our editors became very open to try new things and experiment new products and features. So on a user example here, so Pin Post is a new feature we launched maybe a year ago on the live blog. So the goal of it was created for readers to be able to catch up on the live news quickly before they go into the latest updates. So just imagine if readers come to New York Times later when the event already happened and they want to catch up first before they see what just happened. So when we used it more and more, we noticed that our reporters started to put really long articles, sometimes 2,000-word articles, into this Pin Post. It's really great journalism, but it creates a barrier for readers to get to the latest update. So we use Prototype to show our editors our concerns, how we are using Pin Post right now, and how long it takes for readers to scroll down, as you can see in the example here. And so we want to make them understand that why we're trying to solve this problem and facilitate discussions. So we discuss, like, is this a product problem to solve? Should we create some sort of UI solutions to add a skip button or whatever? Or should it be a journalism problem to solve? Should they write shorter Pin Post? So instead of proposing a solution directly to them, we want to make sure that we are on the same page about the problem first and solve it together. So we are also able to roll out features and adjust designs quickly by building trust with our amazing engineers. So when they join the team, they understand that we are working in a fast-paced news environment. So they are really open-minded when we have to shift priorities due to news events. When we need to get a feature out quickly, sometimes we don't have time to spec out each pixels in Figma or each colors or something like that. So we usually just send a screenshot, a rough sketch to our engineers, and we will just figure it out together during the visual QA. So now this would be possible without our engineers. For example, for the features we launched on the King coronation day, I previously mentioned. So we give engineers a heads up when we were sketching in April, on April 26th this year. And we handed off to the mid-sprint a week before the coronation day on April 27th. And so they were able to immediately drop whatever they were working on at that time and pick this up as their top priority and launch the feature for both front-end user-facing features, presentation, and the back-end editorial workflow at the same time. So on the screenshot on the right, the top is how the editors are typing in these voice of the people feature in the CMS, and down at the bottom, it's how it's presented to our readers on the website. So when it comes to visual-heavy CSS changes, one of our designers also often pushes code directly to GitHub and bring up a preview branch for us to look at and adjust designs directly, which enables us to move quickly and also frees up engineers' time to be able to work on more complicated features. It especially comes handy when the features need to get out for an upcoming breaking news event. So as you can see here, that designer, he didn't push code every day in GitHub, But when down the days when you push most code, it's usually during the important news events like World Cup, the war, midterm elections, or Met Gala, or the coronation day. So that's when we really need to adjust designs or launch features quickly. So of course, because we do things so quickly, not everything we tested or rolled out proved to be working as expected. And it's okay. So I want to just talk about 2 examples here. On the left side, so it's a feature we did called visual mode. So we originally launched it when the Russian-Ukraine war just broke out, and the goal of it was to tell the stories through the lens of images and videos. But as we tested out a few times, we realized this didn't really make sense from storytelling and an editorial perspective. It just didn't make sense for photo editors' workflow. And then on the right side, it's a feature called visual updates. So we launched it during Met Gala. It's an annual fundraising event that happens at New York Metropolitan Museum of Art, and usually celebrities walk carpet there. And so our original goal was to create an immersive visual experience like you can see on Instagram or TikTok. But as we tried it, we noticed that the text overlay really introduced accessibility issues, and the darker shadow hurts the image integrity. But if we don't have the text, we lose context in the storytelling. So when first time things like this happened, I thought that I'm gonna get fired, or people on Twitter will be like, who did this, and tag New York Times. But luckily, the team is really used to trying new things, and when test results like these are not what we expected, it's a great opportunity for us to learn and get insights from. And sometimes the things that didn't work are really the things that helped us the most to make better products. So I also learned during this whole process to change my mindset from my work, my responsibility, to our work, our responsibility. So I started to think of the things that I designed as the things that everyone contributed to, everyone should take ownership of. So when everyone takes ownership of a feature and a product, when everyone works more closely together, take responsibility together, make decisions together, and trust each other more, it really allows us to have more courage to try and not afraid to fail, because the whole team have the whole responsibility of this feature. So yeah, I hope our talk gives you insights into how we design at the pace of news and how we work together to deliver quality journalism to our readers.
So as we think about our 2 different products and work streams, we really want to leave you with 4 learnings that have guided us through the years. So when your product is news, it's a little messy, things are out of your control, which is why it's really important to build a stable foundation that is flexible enough to be used for all instances. Also, being flexible and open-minded as a designer goes a really long way. Everything is a work in progress, just like the news cycle or your priorities or your life. It's always ever-changing, and like Chen said, that's okay.
We also learn to test, iterate, and repeat. And some things that might not work, like the screenshots on the left side, and it's okay. But it helps us to learn from it and build things that actually work. And more importantly, we learn to build trust with our cross-functional partners and stakeholders. They should be your soundboard and your rock. So here are our soundboard and our rocks. Thanks so much, everyone. We're really honored to be here. Hopefully that was helpful.
Wow, thank you so much for that talk. From a designer's perspective, it was so nice to see the evolution and the history of the layouts and the design, and also being able to see the Figma screenshots from a practical side of practical point, and to actually see how it's made. Beautiful. So thank you. In the name of all designers, I think you can say that it was very nice. And there are a lot of questions that came in, so I hope that we have time for more of those. Let's start off with one. This has been upvoted a lot of times. So, do you make the day-to-day layout by hand? I guess they mean by manual code, or is it generated automatically based on the types and temperatures of the content?
We do not. So basically, we created this system of layouts, and there's a ton of flexibility for the editors. So there are news editors that actually do program all those packages you see on the homepage and are making the choices between which story gets an image, which story doesn't get an image, and all that stuff. But my team has built that home system to really create all that work and make it an easy, seamless experience. So even if a story is a smaller story, but then the news breaks and it goes to Spotlight, they can easily just check a checkbox, and all of a sudden that package now becomes full width. So we've created this really easy system for them to use to build the whole homepage. But yes, the homepage is actually edited and designed and very meticulous by the news desks across the world, 4 different news desks across the world.
So you have different states and different variations that you can just kind of put out and be published.
What's
right?
that?
I just wanted to kind of give a summary and conclusion on that. So you have different states and different versions of that layout, and you can just apply whatever is exactly needed.
Yeah, they can choose how many stories they want, which story has images, how they want those headlines or summaries to go, the type of typography they want to use, and and there's a couple different ways that they are able to present either news content, or if it's a very visual story, they can do a checkbox and present it in a different way. And then we've started creating more and more layouts that expanded on that initial home system to give the editors more expression on the homepage as well.
Thanks. What is the mixture of knowledge that is needed for this product designer job? And what are your daily tasks and what are your tech stack things?
Yeah, I can start. So for my team, I think the most important thing, honestly, is the passion for news. Because you really need to understand what's going on every day in the world, understand our reporters and editors' workflow, and really be passionate about it. Like a lot of my day-to-day involves just following to see what is happening. Like, what's the breaking news? Okay, what can we do to make it better, present it to our readers? And for example, we just launched a new election vehicle for next year, and a lot of my job is to do, honestly, content design, partnering with our politics reporters and editors to talk with them about, okay, what are the things you think you would be reporting on the ground at a campaign trial as you are following the candidates, so how we can better present this information to our readers. So it's really not just UX, UI design, but a lot of times to understand the journalism and understand how to present it to our readers. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And for me, it's more about, because the homepage involves a lot of different teams building products onto our page, it's really about me working with these different teams and a lot of my job now is how to get their work approved by the newsroom and figuring out what is the proper way to present this work, how do we tell these stories to the newsroom, how do we get buy-in from them, but while also working with these different teams to create these new features to make sure that they all kind of align with the home system as well.
You can also can read the questions from there, but I'll try to be clear when reading it out loud. So do you perform A/B tests for each design change? And what happens if more popular opinion goes against your design principles?
That's a really good question. So from my team, we do a lot of A/B tests, but not for every feature. If we are pretty confident about a feature, or we are confident on both product design, engineering, and the newsroom side, then we don't really test it. I mean, we're always running a user test survey on the website to get opinions from our readers, and we are always doing the data testing on the website on these new features. But I want to say that there's not very often times what's the question? The popular options go against design principles, but maybe for example on the visual updates feature I just showed, that might be an example, that's something newsroom really wants to do and to show an immersive image and video, but it kind of goes against design principles because this doesn't really work accessibility-wise. But in that case, we kind of just we tried it and we show our editors it doesn't really work, so they will understand. And I think if we just present to them, they will understand and agree with us on this, so we can advocate more for our users.
We do a good amount of A/B testing on when we're creating these new features and new products on the homepage. So right now we started working on because the Times has so much content, we wanted to create a feature that readers can kind of see the breadth of our content. So we started creating filters on the homepage. We tested it out in a couple different scenarios, and we just tested it out with our cooking module and our cooking product within the homepage. And every time we've tested it, it totally failed. And it's one of those things where you're like, we just got to move on. Like, we tried this idea, it didn't work, and let's figure out what the new, or either like a new iteration of it, or just move on to a new feature, because obviously this one wasn't working for us.
Let's move on to a different one. Wouldn't it be effective for the new gen to have more colors and text, and differentiating ways to highlight info, to shift back from mainly video content consumption?
I mean, well, that is one of the things that the Times, like I said, is like a super old, very established brand. And so as a product designer, you're kind of up a wall against trying to modernize this product, but also dealing with a legacy product. So we're, from the product side, I think when I first started, we were going really hard on like, we need to update this, we need to make all these really big changes. And we've slowly realized, but we were running up against a wall, and we slowly realized that like, that's just not how this organization works. There's so many levels here that we really have to like make these incremental changes. And I've brought back ideas that I had 4 years ago. I brought them back recently, and they've now been adopted by the newsroom because it kind of just takes time. So for me, it's all about like, if there are good ideas, always keep them in your back pocket and know that like, it might just not be the right timing, or you have a presentation, it doesn't work that well. You think about like, like not think that it's a failure, but think of like, all right, well maybe there was a different way to frame this or a different way to present this work that will actually work with the newsroom. Because again, I think product speaks a different language than the newsroom speaks, and really having to understand how to speak to the newsroom in their terms to get, and it's been a long journey to get to that point, but that's kind of where like one of my specialties now is like working with these different teams to help them make that connection stronger.
I think we have time for one more. With this much pressure, how do you manage personal mental health and creative blocks?
I mean, it is a lot. Like I will say, luckily within especially, the last 3 years have been a lot. And especially in the US, there's just been so many major events that really affect you as a person, as a human. And so luckily, I think the company understands the like content that we work with. And so say like the day that the Capitol building riot happened, my manager just put on a Slack channel, hey, if anyone really needs to take the day off, like take the day off. And I, closed my laptop and like took a nap because, I just know that I needed that space. And even on a daily basis, I've taken that as a thing to like, if the news is too heavy, I just need to take a break from it and like go grab a coffee, go read a book, and like know that like know that my company believes that my personal health and mental health is important, and they want to keep me as an employee. So I definitely take time for myself.
Yeah. And same with, like my team is always working crazy hours, but luckily we have a big team of designers, so everyone can help out with each other. If one of the designers feel like, oh, I need to take a break, or like I can't do this right now, so we always help out each other. It feels like a teamwork, yeah. Thanks
a lot for your answers. Here's a small token of appreciation from the team, and also something that you can hopefully take back to your team. This one's for you.
Oh, that's so cute.
And this one's for you.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.